What's going on, people? Proof here, and today I'm bringing you two new Spike cards that were revealed at the BWC Philippines event. Bushiroad decided to showcase a couple of the new cards from Set 9, and Spike Brothers had two new common cards revealed, a grade 1 and a new Forerunner. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys what the card is. I'm going to talk about it for a little bit, and I'm going to give my thoughts and opinions on how I feel the card is and the scope of things. And so the very first card is going to be Fullspeed Specter, and he's a new grade 1. And people called him Senna from Ice Shield 21, and I can definitely see that. But he's a charge unit, and if you're not aware, charge says when it's called to rear due to the effect of one of your cards, you can put it in charging until the end of into the end of that battle, and then at the end of the battle, it returns back to the deck, and that affects either attacking or boosting. And he says, auto counterblast 1. When this unit becomes charging, you may pay the cost. If you do, until the end of turn, this unit gets plus 4,000 power, and continuous, this unit can attack Vanguard from the back row. And it's actually really exciting to finally have a charge unit that can attack from the back row. I remember before, one of my thoughts for new spike cards was having such a unit like this that can attack from the back row, and it helps against the likes of Link Joker, mainly Link Joker, and pretty much only Link Joker. But it can also help the fact that your Vanguard is attacking unboosted most of the time, so you have that free spot behind your Vanguard to be able to utilize for various purposes. Get to my notes right here. Let's see. I kind of like it. Uh, the pros for it is that he combos pretty well with Damfir Lily, because usually if you have one column and then you call something to your opposite rear guard slot, so you have a full column Vanguard, then the opposite slot. Sometimes your opponent will likely not let Damfir hit, or I'm sorry, they'll usually let Damfir hit, thinking that you can't call something because you have the slots filled up. But with Spectre, this now allows you to not have to attack with your first slot, your boosted slot, to be able to utilize her on hit. You now have that free spot behind your Vanguard to be able to do what you need to do with her on hit, call something out, and then it can attack for 16,000 from the back row, which is pretty exciting. It costs 10 more shield from your opponent. Let's see what else I got. Finally, a back row attacker, often space behind Vanguard. It has pretty good potential to do something big. And depending on what the other stuff that comes out in the set does, it can probably find its way into a Miracle Ace based deck. And I mean by that is that depending on what's revealed, the charge focus might split between a Miracle Ace focus deck and then an opposite type of deck, whatever that might be. And he might fit into a deck that doesn't utilize Miracle Ace as much and be able to use that free spot behind the Vanguard more often. The cons to it is that the counterblast cost is kind of awkward, because in the scenario that you have two counterblasts, let's say you have one face, or you have two damage, you have one face down already. If you attack with Vanguard and you use Rise and Nova skill, you now have 0 counterblast. And so if you call out Double Watch, for example, and Damfir hits and you want to call out Fullspeed Specter, you can't pay the cost for his skill before you're able to utilize Double Watch, which is unfortunate. Excuse me. If he was worded in such a way that he could still attack from the back row, but the power came as a counterblast cost, you'd be able to combo those two up better. And so it kind of hurts in that regard, to where it could limit what you want to do in that particular scenario. And then on top of that, it's fighting for grade 1 space, which leads me back to one of my prior points, that it might come into a deck that's not focused as much on Miracle Ace, because you won't have to compete as much in space for the likes of Frog Raider, Mood Maker, Neon Rook, Medical Manager, Machine Gun Gloria. Those things, it's fighting for spots in that tech spot with those cards. And so if there is such a deck to where it's not focused as much on Miracle Ace, he might be able to find himself a spot in that deck, which is pretty exciting. And I think that's about covers it. Ooh, excuse me. As is, I give it like a based on the 0 out of 5 rating, with 1 being awful and 5 being staple. I give him, like, as of now, I give him like a 2 out of 5, because I can. It has potential to be good, but what hurts it a lot is that counterblast cost in a deck that's already very counterblast heavy. And so we'll see if Bushiroad releases different ways to unflip damage in maybe in the course of the battle phase, or maybe the draw trigger that comes out is reminiscent of the Token Rambu draw trigger that pushes soul and countercharge one, which could definitely lend himself to helping out full speed a lot. And so we'll see. I'm excited for it, and I definitely think it could be a card to be see some play in the future. And then as for the other card, we got Mecha Coach. So we got Mecha Analyzer, and of course the boy Mecha Trainer, and now we got Mecha Coach. And he says he's Forerunner, of course, and put this unit into your soul. At the end of the battle that another of your charge and rear guards attacked, you may pay the cost. If you do, bind all the rear guards in that same column as the unit that attacked face up, and then call them into separate open rear guard circles as rest. Oh boy. So the first thing I want to mention, based on this wording, it says choose one of your charge and rear guards, which means it needs to be called out into charge state. Means it has to be called out through one of your other skills to be considered charging, not a rear guard with charge ability, which I feel like there'll be a distinction, such as Hive Maker. And so that's an important facet right there. And then after that unit attacks, you bind them all, that and the booster if he has one, even if the booster didn't do anything, and then you call them back to open rear guard circle. This card is really interesting. Like, this one makes me think more about potential than Fullspeed Specter does, because as of now, there's only one card that this card in the charge realm that this card combos with, and that's Axe Diver. Because you use Axe Diver to bind something and then call it back out when he's in charge, and then you attack with Axe Diver, and then you can do combos again with it. So say, for example, you have a charge unit and say Mood Maker behind it, or Fullspeed Specter behind the charge unit. When that charge unit attacks after being called out through Axe Diver, it returns back to the deck. Then you attack with Axe Diver, and then when Axe Diver is getting ready to return, since he's in charge, you push Mecha Coach into the soul, you bind the column with Axe Diver, call the column back out, and then you can do Axe Diver again to then bind Mood Maker / Full Speed, and then call it back out, and then that way you can attack again. Really, 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 really resource heavy for that particular play. But what this does is it gives me hope that there's going to be more charge units that have when called to rear guard effects, such as Axe Diver, because since it's restricted to charge and rear guards, that means it will lend itself to making more cards with the charge ability that are on placement, as opposed to while charging, while attacking, do this particular ability. And so, get to my notes. I said more on placement charge units, like I just mentioned, and it's also might give itself, or gives me hope that there's going to be a bigger chunk of spike support in the set, because you're going to need to make a card 2 or 3 to work with the particular Forerunner. Because if they want to get to the point where they phase out Mecha Trainer, or have a viable Forerunner in a G-regulated format, if that ever happens, they're going to need to be able to support this particular Forerunner, or more support for Mecha Analyzer. And so in the context of the set, I feel like they're going to give more support to something that utilizes Mecha Coach, which will give itself to more charge units that have on placement abilities, which makes me really excited, because if it works with Mecha Coach, it could potentially work in the context of a Miracle Ace based deck with Rise and Nova and everything like that. So I can only imagine having an on place skill in the context of your Miracle Ace turn with everything that's going on in the context of that turn, which would be really exciting. So who knows? I think the biggest thing this kind of hints at is that there's going to be a charged version of Jumbo the stun gun, which is when it's placed on rear guard, you soul charge and counter charge one. Because in this case, this will combo better with a card like that. So I'm excited for that. Let's see. In terms of 1 out of 5, currently this card has a 1 because the support that we have now doesn't lend itself to support this particular Forerunner. But that's definitely, potentially, not definitely, that could potentially change once we have more information on the set itself, because then we'll see what Bushiroad had in mind for this card when they designed it, and then I'm gonna reassess my grades reassess my grades when that time comes, and we'll see if it increased from there or not. So that'll do it. 2 new reveals. I'm excited for them, and we'll definitely, hopefully, when the set's revealed, they'll have those. Well, they'll show what they really had in mind for them and show the potential that they really have. So until next time, that'll do it. Until next time, peace. Be easy.